We also have a look at corn and soybean markets this week with John Meuret from Meuret Grain Company. John joined us Wednesday afternoon to talk about China's approval of Syngenta's MIR 162 corn trait, basis levels, and crush numbers in soybeans. We began by talking about corn's rally and what led to it reaching a 5-month high Monday.
Well, a lot of things, Jeff. We were oversold going into harvest. I think harvest was strung out 60 or 70 days, and so it let the corn crop get tucked away fairly easily. And once it was tucked away, we rallied. And on top of that, you've got some Russian problems going on. You've got some FSA acreage data, and wheat's going to move higher. So when wheat moves higher, it's going to pull corn up a little bit.
So wheat is a leader in this?
Wheat's been a leader in this, in my opinion. I think independently, corn's probably 30 or 40 cents less than this. It was due for a rally, but I don't know about a dollar rally. 50 cents probably would have been about right.
Tom Vilsack said this week that China has approved MIR 162. Does that make a difference?
I don't think so, Jeff. It's symbolic. It's a good thing. But again, I think the problem is not the trait. I think the problem is that China didn't need the corn. So when we get worked through their stockpiles, and we will, I think then they come back in for more corn. But the real problem, again, is that they don't need it, and they're going to find another scapegoat. In this case, it'll probably be another trait that's unapproved for China.
Has this rally that we've seen, has it knocked any corn loose?
It knocked a lot of corn loose. I think people have bought 20 or 30% of their harvest bushels in the last week or 10 days, and it's softened the cash markets a little bit. The weather, up into this last week has been outstanding across Nebraska. You don't find snow except for the northern, maybe 1/3 of the state or something. So, yeah, there's lots of cash moving. Seems to be easy to buy, and the farmers, he's rewarding the market.
Do you believe that prices can increase from here or no?
Well, there could be some increase, especially when you take what's going on in Russia again. If wheat wants to move 50 cents higher, you'll certainly put a quarter on corn or 25 cents on corn. So,
what about 2015 sales? Does anything look appealing?
It's starting to. I said early on I was friendly corn and negative soybeans, and we may get to my corn number without the soybeans really breaking yet. But yeah, I do. I think you got to sell 4.5 for 475 East 15 board.
Tell me where basis is in your area of northeast Nebraska, because it is varied across the state.
It's varied a lot, but you're going to see it 20 to 40 under, really east to west. The crop was ample up there, but I wouldn't say it was overwhelming. Certainly you get into South Dakota, Jeff, that's where you start seeing the cheaper basis.
And it's moving which way?
And the corn's moving north to south.
No, it's the basis.
I'm sorry, it's widening.
Yeah, it's widening. Okay, yep. And in beans?
Beans are probably just flat in the last 2 weeks here. That cash basis level is probably going to trade somewhere closer to 20 to 30 under at the processor. Bought a lot of beans early this year. I think the farmer harvested them first, obviously, and then he sold them. He sold them when they were 9. He sold them when they were 10. And when they got to 10.5, I think he just scratched his head and said, now what? So a lot of beans moved, satisfied what needed to be satisfied, and then the export program is winding down now. So,
would you describe yourself as bearish in beans?
I'm negative on soybeans, Jeff. And I think the problem is if you can get to Christmas, which is next week, and you don't have a weather problem in South America, I think you have to start thinking, okay, we got to protect, we got to get on the backside of this thing and be ready for a fall.
The expectations on Monday would be that NOPA crush numbers would be really big. What did they show?
They were big, but they weren't record. And I think everybody was feeding into the story that we can't make enough meal, can't get to the right places, and so the crush has to be enormous. And in fact, it was the problem of the crush wasn't that big and the rail wasn't that good, and that's why we couldn't get the meal in the right places. So.
One more on meal and price. Where has that price been moving on soy meal?
Soybean meal, started fairly cheap. We were underneath $300 for probably 2 or 3 weeks, early harvest, and then we quickly rallied. We took it from about a $300 item to about a $400 item in the matter of 30 days, and so we've got the de-spored off now in soybean meal, but you've still got the January contract hanging around that 360 mark. And the real problem, Jeff, is basis. Basis on soybean meal are 20 to 25 over. So we need to break that cash back. We did a little bit in early October, but then it rallied up strong against the December. So.
More news from that Chinese delegation in the country this week. They announced that they'll buy 1 million metric tons of soybeans in 2015. Is that anything more than symbolic?
Nah, they do this every year. In fact, it always troubles me. You look for these, when they're coming, and then everybody says, well, they're going to make a big announcement. Well, they're framed contracts, Jeff. They know they're going to buy so many tons each year from the U.S. This one this week happened to be 1 million metric tons, and the trade was expecting 3 or 4. Does it matter? Absolutely not. China, just like on their corn, has got their bean shipments moved to the front of the period rather than the back of the period, and so they're literally swimming in soybeans today. So doesn't mean they're done forever, but they can certainly take 30 days off here, reanalyze, and then rebuy come spring.
We've talked about this before, but the last half of 2015 here, what has train availability been like?
It's been a lot better. It started out rough, Jeff, but the problem was that we couldn't get the bean harvest started at normal time. So we've always been a believer at that first day of October, you've got a full steam harvest coming on. This week it was about 5 to 7 days late. So all these trains were staged in the country, and so we had a really, really rocky start getting the trains rolling. But once we got them to the West Coast and to the Gulf, the center Gulf here, and turning back, we corrected things quite quickly. So easy to get trains. The railroad's doing a lot better job. Things look to be pretty good here. And part of that, again, is that we pushed away some demand. So we can't give all the credit to the railroads. It's also because the demand's not there. So soybeans, as I alluded to earlier, are winding down, but there's no corn to be found. You can't ship or sell corn here at the moment.